Hello, welcome to tonight's webinar. This is an interactive online experience and we want to hear from you. You can participate by asking questions, answering poll questions, and completing interactive activities. The majority of our time will be spent answering your questions. Let's spend a moment getting to know this Q&A environment. On your screen, you'll see the video and slides window and their corresponding icons. Should you want to minimize either, you can just click the icon, and you can also resize each of the windows. You will also see a Studio Chat tab and button. That is where you can engage in conversation with fellow attendees. And most importantly, you'll see the Q&A tab. That is where you can ask us questions. All of our Q&As and webinars this year are accessible on computers, tablets, and smartphones, so you can even take us on the go. When you click on the resources icon, you'll find documents and other information that we'll mention during today's discussion. We'll also ask you to respond to some poll questions, which you'll see appear in the slides window. And at the conclusion of tonight's Q&A, please take a few minutes to complete our survey. It will automatically appear on your screen. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Staying Connected, Competitive, and Current in Your Career, Part 2. My name is Janae Wheeler, and I'll be your host today. I'm joined in studio by Heather Tinsley-Fix, a senior advisor with AARP, Michael Phillips, a director at AARP, and Chrissy Tadlock, operations manager at Work at Home Vintage Experts. Welcome, Heather, Michael, and Chrissy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today we'll answer your questions about on-the-job technology. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll highlight tech skills needed to stay competitive on the job, ways to stay safe online, organization and productivity tools, why innovation can result in success, creative thinking and problem solving, and how to navigate changing workplace technologies. You can ask a question at any time. Just type your answer in the Q&A box on your screen. We will answer as many questions on air as possible, and we'll make every effort to acknowledge that your question was received. Additionally, these webinars will be available on demand via the links in the resources folder. There, you'll find a copy of the presentation slides for both webinars, plus links to additional helpful resources. Let's kick things off with a poll question. We want to know, how comfortable do you feel with learning new technologies? Comfortable, neutral, or uncomfortable? Please select the answer on the screen that applies to you and click Submit. We encourage you to share your tips and stories with us about how you can leverage technology to stay connected, competitive, and current in your career. Just click on the chat box on your screen. It's the icon that looks like the bubble. Now let's take a look at your responses. All right, looks like 77% feel comfortable with learning new technologies. That is excellent. That's the type of positive attitude you want to have. Now let's dive right into your questions. Now don't forget, you can ask a question at any time and we'll address as many on air as possible. So our first question is coming from Marguerite. She wants to know, what is the latest technology she should be aware of because she doesn't want to feel left behind with her coworkers? Mike, what would you say?
Yeah, so a lot of the productivity tools and applications that we're all familiar with are beginning to be more mobile, more collaborative, and cloud enabled, which allows us to work in different places on different types of devices. Now, some people ask, well, what does cloud enabled mean and what does that mean to me? Cloud just means it's on a server somewhere out there in the internet. It's not, the application and files aren't on your own PC, they're on somebody else's PC that you can, or server that you could reach through the internet. That allows us to use different devices, phones, tablets, PCs, and be in different places and still work and collaborate. A lot of the productivity suites that we use for spreadsheets and presentations, email, are all more mobile and more cloud enabled now. So Microsoft Office, Google Docs, and Apple iWork, they're all out there and are changing the way that we do work.
Excellent, thank you. Chrissy, what would you say?
Well, I would echo a lot of what Mike just shared. With the cloud technology platforms, we're seeing a lot of applications that can be used on our smartphones as well. So you can access the data from places other than your office PC or laptop. You have it in your pocket with you to go. And also we're seeing that the applications, not only can you do Microsoft Office products from your cell phone, but you can scan PDFs right from your phone. You can submit expense reports. You can manage your passwords. And all of those apps are there to be utilized, and a lot of them are free, which is great.
Thank you for sharing that. Heather?
I think it's really important what Mike and Chrissy have just said. And one of the things that occurred to me was a way to stay current on the technologies that your colleagues are using is if there are any professional associations or like meetup groups or publications online that directly relate to your profession. It's really important to read those because those are going to have information about the latest thing coming in your specific field.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Now I have another question from Danny. He says, are there software and websites that make it easier to work on projects together? His company's shared drive is pretty messy right now. Heather, any suggestions?
Right, so our shared drive is really messy as well. There are a number of collaboration software or platforms, and you had alluded to some of them. Google has a set of applications, Docs, and I think Google Sheets, but they're great because they allow people to interact with the document collaboratively in real time. You can see people making changes in real time and leaving comments. There's also file sharing platforms like Basecamp and Dropbox, and those also enable conversation, so it's kind of like chat. Just regular chat, there are different chat programs. There's a new application called Slack that a lot of companies are adopting. So those are just some ones to check out.
Excellent. Chrissy, are there any that you suggest?
Well, Work at Home Vintage Experts is just in that we have a work at home environment. So we use a lot of technology to coordinate on projects while we're all working in our home offices. And recently we have implemented the use of Onenote, which is for information gathering and sharing notes. And then we also use Microsoft Teams quite a bit for project management, direct messaging and chatting, screen sharing and helping each other with files. And it also has a really fun social media component to go with it. So it keeps everyone engaged in the office.
Chrissy, I'm glad you shared that. Mike?
Yeah, so I would echo everything that was just said. There's another app that we're using a lot now called Skype for Business. It comes from the old Skype application. But video chatting and IM is becoming such a way that part of our work these days. And it's great because it allows us to work remotely more. So understanding the etiquette and the applications that are available that allow us to work remotely through tools like Skype and Google Chat and whatever tools the particular jobs use. It helps us make a case sometimes to work remotely more with our companies.
Absolutely. Real-time collaboration is so key nowadays, isn't it? We have another question from Peter. Now, his boss told him that he needs to start thinking outside the box. He needs to show that he is working more innovatively and reflecting new technologies if he even wants to consider a promotion. So what are some suggestions of tools that he can help to implement this? Chrissy, would you like to share first?
Well, I would like to suggest to him that you have to think outside the box, but you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes it's innovative to make that wheel look new and be interesting. And the first place to start would be online and just doing a Google search to see what's available. And there's lots of comparisons out there on multiple products. So an example, if you're using PowerPoint for presentations, you might do a search for new ways to present PowerPoints. And recently we started using Prezi, Prezi, and it's very similar to PowerPoint, but it's a lot more engaging and effective, and you get a lot more from your presentations. And it's really designed for people who have used PowerPoint in the past and for people who are not designers like me.
Wonderful. And Heather, what tools would you suggest?
Well, I actually would not suggest a tool. I would suggest the tools that Chrissy and Mike, I'm sure, will talk about. But I actually think it's also good to stay current on what are the methods A lot of companies, probably most companies, are very keen to adopt innovation as a competency that they have. And so they've likely adopted some methods in there. You can Google human-centered design. You can Google lean startup methodology. These are some of the types of processes by which innovation gets done. And demonstrating the knowledge of that is also a good way to signal that you're current and that you can get that promotion.
Excellent. Thank you, Heather.
I thought innovation might come up, so I went to an expert source. I went to one of our colleagues here who's only 2 years out of college to find out how she's always coming up with. She uses Prezi and other innovative tools that brings a little spice, a little bit of color and creativity to the work that we do. And I said, "How do you find all of these tools?" And her answer was, of course, very simple. She just Googles her problem. So she goes to her friend Google, she puts in the problem she's trying to solve, and it's just amazing how many innovative tools are out there, most of them free to use, that allow us to do work in new ways and be creative.
Absolutely. Google, you're right. It is a best friend, right? Mm-hmm. Well, here's a question from Nicole. And Chrissy, I'm going to direct this to you first. She wants to stay safe online. So she's worried that she's going to accidentally download something and screw up her computer and even take down her whole company's network. What would you suggest she do or even not do?
Well, that's really important because the last thing you want to do is be the center of an IT scare. So my suggestion would be that if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. And if something looks odd, or you receive an email that you're not expecting, or someone requests you to do something that's outside of your normal scope of job duties, I would suggest picking up the phone and just verifying the request with a phone call. Sometimes that's all it takes because you'll get an email and it looks so real and it looks like it could be true, but be very careful and cautious before clicking any links or downloading any files that you're not expecting.
Wonderful. Mike, any suggestions?
I would echo that. The number one thing we can do is click safe and share safe. So when we click on a web page or a website, we should know where we're going because there's some malicious websites out there. Clicking on email, as Chrissy said, can be dangerous if we don't know what that link is in the website, in the email, or that file that was attached. Facebook, of course, can provide some really malicious things. So make sure we know what we're clicking on before we click on it, and do our due diligence if there's any question at all. And what we share is also important. If we're sharing files, if we're sharing personal information, if we're sharing any kind of information that might be confidential to the company or sensitive to the company, know where it's going and know where all of that information is going to end up. Just being smart is the number one thing we can all do.
Excellent. Very, very timely advice for everyone. Now, Lena wants to know, how can she make sure she's up to date on tools that her colleagues and even other companies are using? What would you say?
Yeah, there's a plethora of new applications and new tools, new platforms coming out every day. Some of them stay around and become part of our normal work, and others come and go. And a lot of them are very job specific. So I think going to conferences where or events or networking groups with other people who do similar work and sharing is the number one way that I find out about new technology and new tools that I can use in my job. And then trying and testing some of these new tools is obviously another way that we can find out what works for us and our company and our job and what doesn't.
Excellent. Chrissy, any suggestions?
I would just add on to what Mike said and really encourage people to network with their colleagues, and also maybe work with your professional organizations based on your industry. So we're in the insurance industry, so we do a lot with the International Association of Insurance Professionals. If you're in human resources, you may want to look at the SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management sites. There's always events happening that you can participate in, and just really communicate with other professionals And if there's someone in your office who's doing something a new way, ask them how they did it and see if they'll share that information with you and really, pay it forward.
Well, thank you for all of your great insights. It's time for us to take a quick break. If you have tips for how technology can help you stay competitive on the job, share them here. Just click on the chat bubble on your screen or type them in the Q&A box. Now let's take a look at what you've said so far. All right, excellent. So Philip says he takes advantage of trainings provided by his employer for a discounted rate or free of charge. That's excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Gwen likes to use LinkedIn to stay connected. Excellent resource, Gwen. Now, Carrie says you should ask your manager for options that are available for additional training. Oftentimes, going to the source to see what's available can be excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Carrie.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, actually, don't be intimidated by training and be tenacious. If you think there's something that you want to learn, definitely put yourself out there to your employer. And don't get it, all technology is learnable, so don't be intimidated by it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing all of those. We have another poll question that we want to hear from you. We want to know, do you feel you can keep up with changing workplace technologies? Yes or no? You can select the answer on screen that applies to you and then click submit. All right, let's see what answers we have from everyone. 100%. Excellent. Feel you can keep up with workplace technologies. Fantastic. That's the type of confident feeling that you should have to continue to keep you connected and current in your career. I love it. Now let's continue answering questions. You can ask a question at any time. We'll try to answer as many questions as possible while we're on air. Let's see, I like this question from Jay. He said, how do I use the AARP job board to get remote work? Heather?
Well, I'm so glad to hear that you're going to use the job board, because I actually work with a lot of the employers who, not all of them, but a lot of the employers who post jobs on the board. I would use the remote or the telework filter. And Chrissy, who is one of our pledge signers, and they post remote positions, but that I would use that as either in your search term or in the filters that are along the left.
Excellent. Now, Dan has a question. He wants to know, what strategies would you recommend for someone wanting to work part-time from home as, let's say, a remote writer or editor? Chrissy, do you have any insights to that?
Well, as a remote company, and we live our model, and we also place people in remote positions, I would encourage him to make sure that when you're sending your resume into employers, that you know the company and that you actually verify the company. There's a lot of work-at-home scams out there, so you wouldn't want to be sending your information to those, but really check ratings on social media. LinkedIn is a great source of information to verify those work-at-home jobs. And always feel free to ask for references of other people who are working from home in for that company and in those positions. They're always happy to let you speak to one of the other people they have working from home.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, here's a great question from Christina. She says that her operations manager advises that she document everything. Why, or what is the most efficient way that she can do this? She's so tired of coming home at night and writing everything that happened during the day. It's like her, she just wants her bedtime back. So what can she do during the day to help her document? What would you say? Yeah,
so that's a hard one, because we're all very busy, and to document everything we do is it takes a lot of time. Until I've heard stories about in the future, some of our technology companies are working on automated systems that will do this for us, and we're all looking forward to that technology. In the meantime, I think whatever we can do from a process perspective to bring to document throughout the day. I use a tool called Onenote from Microsoft. Google also has similar note-taking applications. And the great thing about it is you can use it on your phone as well as your PC, so it all comes together in one source at the end of the day so that you can easily wrap it up and send it along.
Amazing. That kind of ties into a question from Allison. You mentioned using your computers and your smart devices. She wants to know, with safety issues that can be available with using devices, how do you suggest she stays safe when using her smartphone on using these collaborative softwares?
Yeah, so a lot of companies like AARP issue smartphones from the company to select employees, and they make sure that it has all of the security software built in, so that we don't make a mistake and share information or let information fall into the wrong hands. But other organizations may not, or other people may use their personal phones on company systems, and then it's their responsibility to make sure that everything stays safe and that their phone is secure. Password protecting the phone is a big important thing that we do, because you never know what residual information from checking emails or downloading other data may be on that device. So if it's not a corporate issued phone with security built in, we have a responsibility to ensure that it's safe.
Excellent. I'm seeing a lot of questions come in about the cloud, so I'm going to keep you on the hot seat.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask, how safe is the cloud?
So generally, the cloud is very safe. The data that's out there is kept very is protected with firewalls and security measures that certainly individuals wouldn't be able to employ. I think all reputable companies have it in their DNA to ensure that that privacy and security is an important factor. Here at AARP, obviously, we have a lot to ensure, a lot of responsibility to ensure that everything stays safe. So we spend a lot of energy ensuring that everything that's either on our servers or in the cloud can't be maliciously accessed.
Excellent. Thank you for reassuring that for everyone. Now, Heather, you mentioned a program called Slack. Annie wants to know, since companies are starting to use this now, is there something about it that is different from other programs?
But we don't actually use it at AARP, but from what I understand, it enables you to connect your phone. Well, it enables you to connect your phone, your PC, your chats on other chat platforms, anything that you interact with on the cloud. So it's a bit like, from what I understand, when you, let's say you open up an account on Pinterest or something, and it'll say sign in with Facebook. So those two companies are connecting to each other. I think Slack does that with other work applications. So even though it in of itself may not be the same company as Google Docs, it enables that kind of connection.
Awesome. Now, going into learning more and improving your skills, Babette wants to know, what classes would you suggest she can take to improve her skills?
Well, it depends on the skills that you're looking to advance in, and for that I would say definitely do your research. Make sure you know in terms of job descriptions that you might be interested in, or again, your field, knowing what is really current in your field. Then you can look for online courses. There's a whole wealth of online courses that you can take. There's Coursera, there's LinkedIn Learning, there's Amazon is actually launching a big learning library, I think. And if you want to learn something quick, particularly practical things on existing applications, YouTube is a great place to find little tutorials on stuff like that.
Excellent. Chrissy, I have a question. Oh, Mike, did you want to chime in?
I just wanted to encourage anyone, if anyone's applying for a job and you see a technical skill that maybe you don't have currently, but the rest of the job looks like a good match, you can go and get that technical skill, usually for free online, if it's Excel or graphic design or Slack, something like that. Even HTML, if there's a particular tech skill, I just encourage people to Don't let that be a deterrent for applying to a job. Apply for the job and learn the skill while you're going through the process.
Excellent. What great motivation for everyone. That pairs well into a question that Mike has. He wants to know, is there an emphasis on exact skills that are required to get a job versus years ago? What difference are you seeing now of skills that you really should have in your cachet?
Yeah, you probably know more than I do, Heather, but what I'm seeing, some of the technology skills that used to be specialty skills, like certain spreadsheets, certain presentation programs, even email, those are kind of table stakes now for a lot of positions. It's just expected that you walk in the door with familiarity with at least an intermediate knowledge of spreadsheets and word processing programs and email etiquette and those types of technologies in a lot of different areas.
Awesome. Chrissy, do you have any advice for us?
Well, WAVE is very specialized with insurance programs that we need people to know, but just as Mike said, we do have an expectation of Microsoft Office systems. We test on Excel and Word and basic computer literacy and internet knowledge. So those are all skills that you can brush up on online so that you can put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's see. It looks like we can take one more question. And I think we should take a question from Margaret. She teaches college students, and she wants to know, is there anything you recommend that they show her how to do while she has them at her disposal?
I think that one of the things you could do is ask about all the latest apps and what they see as trending. But honestly, and this is not a dig against college students, I'm sure there's a wealth of knowledge you can mine there, but definitely the industry-specific research is really going to help. And then another thing that's great if you have a lot of young people in your life is to interact with them on the social media platforms that they're on, because that gives you a lot of practice and it just gets you in the lingo. Lingo is a great thing to mine your younger colleagues and college students on.
Excellent. Yeah, social media is a great tool.
You know, here in Washington, we have our summer interns with us now, and we have definitely used that as an opportunity to tap into them, their knowledge, their understanding, pose problems to them, and it's amazing the creative solutions that they come back with.
Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time for this evening, so I'd like to get any last tips from our speakers. Mike, would you give us some?
Yeah, we didn't really cover this, but there may be people who want to reskill into a very technical role, and I wanted to just encourage people who may want to become cloud administrators, maybe Salesforce or Oracle administrators. Maybe they want to become programmers on Apple or Android devices. Please go out to their websites and find the training, find the certification. Those jobs there's just so many of them out there, and the training often is free.
Excellent. Chrissy, any final tips?
Well, I just think that the confidence that everyone has in learning these new technologies is incredible. And I would encourage everyone to just be patient. There's so many different things out there, new apps. It can be overwhelming. And there are a lot of resources online, including YouTube, where you can learn to change a flat tire, or you can learn how to do a VLOOKUP in Microsoft Excel. So you can see all of that training step by step online, and there's no better way to learn, no better time to learn. So just be patient and hang in there.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. And Heather?
Well, I would add, in addition to all this great advice on the tech side of things, pay attention to a lot of the soft skills that you've likely spent a lifetime of developing. With the rise of automation and artificial intelligence taking over some of the more predictable jobs, predictable in terms of the tasks, the employers are going to be looking for higher order cognitive skills, and those are things like writing, relationship management, critical thinking, problem solving, and I'm sure that you all have those things because those are soft skills that it takes time to develop. So really emphasize those, emphasize your adaptability to change. Those are things that employers are going to be looking for increasingly.
Yes, thank you so much for those final tips. And don't forget, you can visit aarp.org/learn@50+ and aarp.org/work for more information on how you can leverage technology in your job search and on the job. You can access all of the links, including the on-demand version of both parts of this conversation and content mentioned this evening, by clicking on the resources icon. There you'll also find links to interactive videos and other helpful tips and tools to help you stay connected, competitive, and current in your career. Now, in a few moments, a survey will pop on your screen. Please take a few minutes to complete it. It'll automatically appear in just a moment. A huge thank you tonight to Heather, Mike, and Chrissy for being here today. And to our audience and all of your fantastic questions and comments, thank you. Have a great evening. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. That was very fun. You guys are amazing. So many answers.
Man, that was good stuff.
I don't know how you keep the cache of knowledge that you have, but you make this
Fun. That
so
was
fun and amazing.
Couple of those came in, I was like, oh, Heather's here.